Ew, I hate America. Then why do people try to illegally immigrate here?
Probably because you're less likely to get sanctioned, embargoed, cooed, and bombed by America when you're in America.
I think we need to have a conversation about how some of y'all still perpetuate patriarchy in your protection, but are my tits gonna distract you? Are they just, should I put them away because you're gonna tell me the recoil of them is just so crazy and they're sitting so nice that you weren't gonna be able to focus on the important message that I was about to say? Would that make you uncomfortable? Like, who would say that? Like, who would say that? Well, I'm very familiar with those comments in my comment section. Now, let me be clear. I'm aware that I have titties. Get a good look at them, okay? I'm aware. I wake up with them every single day. I dress them. I put shea butter on them. I'm well acquainted with my body. I'm a very sensual, sexual person. I love my body. I love admiring my body. I love showcasing my body when I feel like it. I love other people admiring my body, right? I love admiring it together because I believe the body is art. I truly, truly do. And it's not something to be sexualized all the time. It truly is just beautiful. However, I have specific posts to do that. You want to admire my body? You want to admire my body with me? You can do that. But in a post where I'm talking about, I don't know, violence against Black women or the sexualization of Black women or how men struggle to have physical intimacy outside of sex and that's why they seek sex in dangerous, harmful ways for everybody. We're talking about history and post-traumatic slave syndrome or the history of sexualizing Black women. You think that is the appropriate time to comment on my voluptuous tiggle bitties. And not just comment about, that you feel like I look beautiful. Comment specifically that you could not focus on what I was saying because, God forbid, these 2 mounds of fat on my chest were distracting you so much. And realizing you could all keep that to yourself. You don't have to comment that on people's... You don't have to comment that at all. You could keep it to yourself. You could register, damn, this person's so beautiful, or damn, their body is so banging that it's kind of distracting you. But you know what? I'm gonna still listen and not say a word about it. We need to start having some boundaries. As a Black woman who uses their platform to talk about the objectification of Black women, violence against Black women, and sexualization of Black women, it seems a little ass backwards to use those videos and those moments to comment something very sexualizing. I need you guys to stop. Because it kind of seems like you're perpetuating the very thing that I might be discussing in my fucking video. Thank you.
Nothing about him looked particularly demonic, at least by classical standards. No horns, no wings. Admittedly, he was listening to a Best of Queen tape.
For Michael is a psychotic child who is suffering from a gross mental disturbance.
This is just a reminder that disabled people were not allowed in public in all 50 states from the 1860s until 1974. Those were called the Ugly Laws. And it was only through a legal precedent called the Olmsted decision that the Supreme Court ruled that disabled people should be getting services in the least restrictive environments possible. And when was that, you ask? 1999.
If you were one of the people who got really mad at me for this video I posted saying I support neopronouns because they literally aren't hurting anyone to the point where you are still commenting on it an entire year later telling me to off myself, I want to remind you that you are responsible for your own For You page. The reason you're seeing content about neopronouns is because you're engaging with content about neopronouns. The crazy thing about the internet is that you can cater your own experience. If you think I'm annoying, then just scroll. It is really that simple. But if you're trans and you like trans content, then stick around and maybe follow me because God knows I need as much positivity in my comments as possible.
Clap if you care. All right, let's move.
Egyptians actually look like this. Scientists have found mummy after mummy after mummy of all these Egyptian pharaohs or kings that look like this, with orange or blonde hair. These kings had the R1a haplogroup Aryan or European gene.
Hello, my friend. Were ancient Egyptians European-like in appearance? Well, I would say to simply say yes would be misleading. Mummies that have been found with coloured hair, that itself is quite a rare occurrence, and should not be seen as a representation of the general appearance of ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egypt was a great civilization with a large population that faced migration over centuries, so obviously the migrations are going to affect the gene pool of the native population, especially in urban areas. Well then, what did they actually look like? Well, genetic studies tell us that they were genetically shifted towards the populations of the Near East, which basically means that the populations that existed within ancient Egypt, much of those populations may have appeared physically similar to populations within the Middle East. Now, your next point was about haplogroups and how certain pharaohs carried the R1a haplogroup associated with modern-day European populations. Yes, that was the case for Pharaoh Tutankhamun, but we got to remember that Egypt has had a variety of dynasties that have ruled over the civilization, and we have minimal examples of what haplogroups were prevalent within each dynasty. We know from Tutankhamun that R1a was present. However, from Ramses III, we know that E1 was present, which is a haplogroup associated with native populations within Africa. What I'm trying to say is that to say Egypt was white or black in race doesn't make much sense. Egypt was a great civilization with a large population, geographically positioned to neighbor a variety of regions with very different looking people, so different looking people are going to be migrating in and mixing with the population. In my opinion, if you want to know what ancient Egyptians looked like, just look at modern Egyptians. They are the direct descendants.
Want to see what two trans girls do behind closed doors? It's fucking Warhammer! What website do you think you're on?
Gentlemen, your woman will never get easier to deal with. Instead, you must become better at handling her tests of your masculinity.
Please don't do this. Don't test your partner. Don't get into this game of testing one another. There is no healthy relationship that involves this level of testing, and not like there's a test for masculinity.
Maybe can you open this?
Oh, sure. I can't get it. It's too tight.
It's okay. I'll try again.
Yeah, this whole test.
There you go.
Oh.
Did you know that there's never been a communist country? China's not communist, North Korea's not communist, and the USSR wasn't communist. The reason is that communism was a goal that these countries aspired to but never achieved. So what is communism, and for that matter, what is socialism? Well, first of all, it's easier to understand communism and socialism as reactions to failed and exploitative forms of government like a monarchy or dictatorship or late-stage capitalism. They're focused on providing solutions to end worker exploitation and the economic class structure that causes it. And that kind of exploitation is so common around the world that there's like 30 different forms of communism and socialism. Here's a list: Leninism, Stalinism, Trotskyism, Maoism, Dengism, Pratandapath, Hoxhaism, Titoism, Luxemburgism, De Leonism, anarcho-communism, and more. All of them stem from Marxism as envisioned by Karl Marx, who is an economist and philosopher who wrote the Communist Manifesto. His big idea was that as Europe started to replace their monarchies with quasi-democratic capitalist economies, the people who got to own the farms and factories were no less exploitative than the kings and queens they replaced. Specifically, labor owners were collecting all the profits that their workers were creating, thereby forming two economic classes: owners called the bourgeoisie and workers called the proletariat. Marx's idea was simple: just have the proletariat collectively own the means of production and cut out the bourgeoisie, because what are they even doing anyway? So according to Marx, the way to gradually convert from capitalism to communism was with a bridge called socialism. In socialism, before the workers had direct control over the means of production, the means of production would be controlled by a democratic government, which itself is controlled by the workers, as opposed to private ownership, which is the case in capitalism. The point being that capitalism encourages competition, which encourages exploitation. So to remove that competitive edge, socialism would have workers collectively working for the greater good and equally sharing in that greater good. Think of things like universal healthcare or public schools. Everybody contributes and everybody benefits. Not just by personally using those services, but by a healthier and more educated society that you get to live in. And truly, in a nutshell, that's socialism. Now, once socialism can be established and private ownership can be abolished, the next step is total collective ownership, and not just of production, but of all aspects of the economy and society, with the end goal of a classless, moneyless, and stateless society where everyone works towards the same goal of being happy, healthy, and free. You do what you can to contribute, and you take only what you need. No billionaires, but no one's dying of starvation. Now, you might be thinking that sounds great, but why hasn't it ever worked out? And I'm going to explain why we've never had a communist country and the fatal flaw with socialism. In fact, what we've seen over the last century is that power-hungry sociopaths are very good at convincing people who would benefit the most from socialism that they can individually solve their problems instead, or in other words, fascism. And what almost always happens is that the more power a government is able to control in an effort to achieve socialism, the more likely it is that power-hungry, corrupt officials who are part of the owner class are able to get into office by lying and cheating, and they get their friends into positions of power, and now you don't have a socialist government, but instead you have a kakistocracy, which is a government that's run by the worst, least qualified, and most unscrupulous citizens. Case in point, the Soviet Union, Venezuela, and North Korea. And it's important to understand that these countries are no longer socialist or communist, but they're failed states and kakistocracies. But if you look at countries that implement social policies, including the United States, but more easily seen in countries like Sweden and Canada, it's very clear to see that these policies are successful, beneficial to the population, and smaller scale examples of socialism that succeeds in spite of the corrupt owner class. So the real problem with socialism is power-hungry capitalist corruption. Also, America invades every single country that's ever tried.
Men deserve to feel love and acceptance outside of the validation of a woman or whoever they're attracted to. Their worth and their value isn't tied to how much attention a woman is paying to them. They deserve to be able to cry, and they deserve to be free, because these systems that are hurting women, that men hold power in, they aren't helping men either. It's just as much a cage for them as it is for the women. Men deserve love, and they deserve to be free. Men are stinky poopies. Men are dirty little stinky poopies, and they are disgusting. Men are smelly. Ew. They are dirty, stinky poopies. Men are sick. They're sick.
Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just putting up a poster. Why does it have a picture of glasses crossed out on it? It's a peaceful rally to protect our kids from big optometrists. Well, that doesn't sound like a real thing. No, it's totally a real thing. I saw it on Facebook. Okay, well, that's not a reliable my aunt's cousin's dog's stepson said that his kid was influenced by 20/20 vision TikTokers to stare directly into the sun. That sounds fake. And weird. Well, if you think it's so fake, why don't you just read this? This just says your mom. Yeah, your mom believes in the glasses conspiracy. Also, you should call her more. I won't. Can you just chill for a second? I mean, glasses are just a normal thing. Some people just need them to see better. And what about all the people who don't? What about them? What if they see all these people flaunting their happy glasses lives and try wearing glasses too? Then they could take them off when they realize they're not helping? Well, that's impossible. And even if they could, then their eyesight could still be ruined by wearing the wrong prescription for so long. It's a real tragedy what's happening, and I can't believe you don't care. It seems like we're getting into a completely different conversation. Having glasses is just a dangerous life choice. Okay. We need to stop our children from being influenced. No child is born with bad eyes. What about me? I wear glasses. So you admit you're biased. That's not what I'm saying. When I was a teenager, I realized I couldn't see the board in class. I told my parents, we talked to a professional, and then I got glasses. It was easy. All your story does is prove that they are just handing out glasses to anybody who asks for them. These just help me see better, and you would be so much happier without them. I feel like you're not the one that gets to make that call. I have been seeing blurry all my life, and I love it. I mean, it kind of sounds like you need... Okay, never mind. Your glasses are your choice, I guess. Just don't wear them around my kid. Don't read any books to my children that have characters with glasses. Don't make any TV shows with characters who wear glasses. And if you see my kid trying on somebody's glasses, make sure you tell me right away so I can immediately disown them. Oh, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Oh, yes, you will. Or I'll get you fired. This is starting to feel very personal. How dare you? This is a movement. It probably shouldn't be. Glasses are not a big deal. They can even be kind of fashionable, see? Trying to force the big glasses agenda. What's next? You're gonna scoop out my eyes? Are you an eye scooper? Okay. Hey, you didn't even try to do anything about this? This guy's an eye scooper. Oh, me? Eye scooper. Well, you both seem to have valid points. Big eye scooper right over here. Are you hearing this right now? Can you be quiet for a second? You have had lots of time to make your argument. Man, so emotional. Okay, that's it. I'm leaving. Oh, no, I've locked the door. Excuse me? Yeah, no, I saw him lock it. Okay, come on. It doesn't seem like a problem to me. This cannot be legal. Maybe not, but I'm gonna be going through with it anyway. Hey, have you noticed in the top part of your poster, what does that say? Oh my gosh, 2020? The ideology. It's everywhere.
The man who wrote Fly Me to the Moon was named Bart Howard. He wrote the song about a man named Bud Fowler because they were gay. And they were lifelong companions and effectively husbands. And Bart Howard is buried in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And I'm from a small town in Texas. And even by my definition, this is the middle of nowhere. And I spent half an hour wandering around this cemetery, seeing if I could find his headstone. I assumed it would just be his. You know, I figured he'd be buried by himself. And then I found this. Buried together. Bart Howard, June 1st, 1915 to 2004, and Bud Fowler, September 1919 to 2007. Companions.
I think the reason why a lot of straight people get upset at LGBTQ people in fandoms who insinuate that certain characters could be possibly gay is because they don't understand queer coding like we do, because it's not meant for them. In a certain TV show that I won't name, a lot of LGBTQ people picked up on a lot of queer coding. Things like color flagging, like the lesbian flag colors, things like parallels and insinuations towards conversion therapy. Even though it wasn't about that specifically, there were parallels. And even the character's specific interactions with another female character versus her interactions with any other character on the show. And queer people pick up on these little signs because we live it in our daily lives. When we see this kind of queer coding in TV shows that's very obvious to us, but completely goes over the heads of straight people, it's because we live in a world where we have to pick up on coding and flagging and these little subtle signs that somebody else might be another member of our community. Straight people don't get that because they are not the exception to the rule. They're considered normal, and they don't have to do all these little subtle things to signal to others that they could be queer like we do. So straight people are not picking up on the subtle clues in coding, and straight people need an explicit coming out statement. They need a direct, I'm gay or I'm bi. They need some sort of like concrete proof that somebody is queer before that they'll accept that person is actually queer. Even if they have been flagging and coding and showing that they are queer or hinting at it in other ways, they don't accept that as valid. They only accept the I'm gay statement, or like, I don't know, if a girl's like kissing another girl, that's like the only thing that they'll accept as a valid way of coming out. Straight people live by the straight until proven otherwise mentality, and that's why they get so mad at LGBTQ people thinking that characters in TV shows could be queer.
They're not the bad guys. They're providing jobs to thousands of people who are coming up with ideas that make our lives better.
If someone pushes you in the ocean and you're drowning, and that same person that pushed you in pulls you out, would you say thank you? To add more, the same person that pushed you in and then pulled you out gets published in the newspaper for being a hero and makes a ton of money. It's almost like you wouldn't need to be saved if they didn't push you in the water, but the act of pushing you in and then pulling you out made them a ton of money. Newsflash, the person who pushed you in and then pulled you out is the billionaire, and the person in the water is you. Yes, you, the person watching this video. But they still saved us. No one else could. What if I told you that there was a ladder that you could have used to save yourself, but the billionaire just went ahead and kicked that in the water too? A billionaire will take a monetary loss on any given day to shoot down any small business or alternative that provides the exact same things that they do, because doing that is the only thing that keeps them where they are. Their role is just to contract a bunch of people that provide more value than what they're being paid. But what's the alternative? Every single employee owns a portion of the company. Someone with great ideas or great potential does not have to be a billionaire or work under a billionaire for those great ideas and potential to come out. I really want you to think about that last part. Someone with great ideas does not have to be a billionaire or work for a billionaire for those great ideas to come into play. To build on that, if you have a great idea and you want to start a movement or an organization and you need help, all of that help would own a portion of the company. But that's not fair, that's not fair. A CEO makes on average 400 times the average employee. If you genuinely equate the value of their role to that much disparity in pay, you've never had an original thought in your life. This way of thinking is not about discrediting good ideas or discrediting hard work. It's about acknowledging a system that benefits a select few and screws over the rest. I want to end by saying that when we say we hate billionaires, you guys take it personally as if we're talking to you. You're not a billionaire. You're never going to be a billionaire. We are on your team. We are fighting for you. We appreciate, we love you.
Don't waste your life's purpose worrying about your body. This is your vessel, it's your house, it's where you live. There's no point in judging it. Absolutely no point. But it's very hard.
Incredible. One of the worst performances of my...
Hi, I'm Evan, this is Black Academics, and today we're going to be talking about inductive and deductive reasoning. People are dragging that TikTok creator, but I think there's something interesting happening here that I wanted to talk about. You may not know that I was hired by Yale College to help other Yale students with their writing. They call them writing partners. We had a little office, it was cute. In most of my sessions, the biggest issue that came up was about argument structure. You know, like what is your thesis? Like what is your main point that you're arguing? But also, how do you bring in evidence and use that to articulate your points? Basically, what is your reasoning for your argument? How did you arrive to the conclusion that you did? And in college, where your writing is mostly long-form argumentative essays, people use inductive or deductive reasoning. So what are those things? To answer that question, we first need to define reasoning. Dictionary.com defines reasoning generally as the process of forming conclusions, judgments, or inferences from facts or premises. Basically, how do you infer beyond what is inherent or obvious around us? Reasoning is how humans get from point A to point B to point C in thinking. Point C wasn't obvious, but through the process of reasoning, we can come to an argument that point C should be true. And so then what is inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is when you make general ideas or claims based on specific cases. Inductive reasoning doesn't presume that anything is true. We kind of look at the world, we see certain things happening, and we say, hey, I think these two things are related. Experiments are how we test inductive reasoning. When we're curious about something, we test it and see if it reliably creates a specific outcome. Say every time you eat spicy food, you get a stomachache. Inductive reasoning is recognizing that pattern and therefore coming to the conclusion that spicy foods gives me stomach aches, right? That conclusion is not obvious, even though it may seem like it because we as humans use inductive reasoning so much. And then if you want to make that generalizable, you would test that. You know, every time you eat spicy food, you would check that you had a stomach ache. This is how we get theories, laws, whatever. When we have something that is reproducible and generalizable from specific instances. Inductive reasoning is sometimes called bottom-up logic because you're taking things that already happen and then you make causal claims about why those things happen. Quite literally, you're building up an argument. And then what is deductive reasoning? Deductive reasoning is when you make a conclusion based on already pre-established ideas or notions that we generally presume to be true. It's also called top-down logic because you're using higher order ideas to generalize down to specific instances. For example, a claim using deductive reasoning would be that 1, dolphins are mammals, right? Like we know that to be true. 2, all mammals have livers. It's weird, but it's true, right? And therefore 3, all dolphins have livers. We know that the first 2 are true through inductive reasoning, but whatever. And because those 2 are true, therefore the third is true. The strongest papers use combination of inductive and deductive reasoning. The inductive reasoning is usually doing research, demonstrating that something has happened and is real. Those then are the premises for your deductive reasoning. You've done your research and have made certain truths, and then from those truths, you make your own claim. The problem is, a lot of students don't adequately prove induction in their reasoning. They don't do a deep literature search. And so they have kind of a half understanding of an idea. They use that idea to make their deductive reasoning, but then the deductive reasoning falls apart because we know that other things are true inductively. Let me give you an example. Say you're doing your research and you inductively come to the thing that, oh, all mammals produce milk. It's one of the defining characteristics of being a mammal. But then through more research, you find that pigeons also produce milk, which is true and gross, but moving on. From those 2 inductively true things that we know, you could deduce from those that pigeons are mammals. The problem being that they're not, because being a mammal requires other things as well, such as being warm-blooded, such as typically giving birth to live young and nursing those live young. When you don't do adequate research, your assumptions based off of that research tend to be incorrect. And I'm not roasting this TikToker, but when you have certain ideas that are universally accepted by the academic literature, your deductions therefore come from certain accepted things. You can't deductively debunk racism because inductively we know that it is real and it's a phenomenon that is well documented. So you're assuming something to be true that isn't true or isn't adequately true. And that's why most of the time as a writing partner, I would just tell people to get their arguments together.